And this morning I've got Rose Conway-Walsh, Senator, on the line because Rose has been following the autism story for many years for a number of reasons, both from a personal capacity and as a public representative. Rose, first of all, good morning.
Good morning, Tommy.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Now, Autism Awareness Week, you wanted to come on because you and Alicia made that point on Monday. It is so frustrating for her 3.5-year-old beautiful daughter, who needs all kinds of assists that she cannot get because the money is not there to plough in to the cold face services. And it seems to me like money was ring-fenced, was it, by our government towards autism, but it just doesn't seem to be penetrating through to the proper services and the proper channels.
I think that's one of the main problems, Tommy, and I listened back to Alicia on Monday, and I mean, Alicia is representative of very many of the parents that I speak to and the family members I speak to of both children and adults with autism in Mayo in particular. And that's why I suppose I wanted to speak to you in terms of what I'm trying to do at the moment here. I'm trying to get an absolute accurate picture of where things are at with autism services in Mayo. Well, I'm looking at Mayo, Galway and Roscommon, but obviously I'm particularly interested in Mayo. Now, I have requested the library and research here in the houses of the Oireachtas to assist me with this, in looking at the numbers and looking at the services that are available, both the residential services, the respite services, and the mapping of all of the services and therapies that are available in each of these three counties, and also the funding that's available at the moment and where the funding is going. So it's like you said there, it's tracking where the funding is going, because I've had many conversations with Finian McGrath, who's the disability minister, on this. And you see, families are all the time telling me, and I know they're telling me the truth, and I know from my own personal experiences, is that when they go to look for these services, they are not there, or they have to wait so long for them. So when you're looking, particularly what's important, I suppose, when somebody is on the autism spectrum disorder, is the speech and language therapy, the physio, the early intervention services like were mentioned the last day, and this can make huge differences to bringing out the abilities of children and young adults who are on the autism spectrum disorder. So that's what I'm trying to get at. So I'm going to combine that information from library and research with the personal interviews with family members of people with autism. Now, I have a lot of them already, but I intend to do more one-to-one interviews over the coming weeks on this, and then combining those two with a series of parliamentary questions around the services as well. I also want to talk to the services that are there already in terms of the challenges that they are facing too. Now, I want to hone in particularly on the interaction between disability and mental health services, and particularly autism and mental health services. And if you wouldn't mind, Tommy, I just want to read you an extract from a parent around her situation, which is familiar to me in that it's many a parent's situation in terms of the high number of people, particularly young people, who are on the autism spectrum disorder, who may develop a mental health challenge as they go through.
Okay.
So somewhere in Ireland, a mother approaching 50 years of age has locked herself in her bedroom while her 16-year-old son experiences a rage attack. She is hoping that no one will ring the doorbell because there's no telling what he might do. She's hoping that her younger son, who has locked his bedroom door properly, She's hoping that her son does not harm himself in the grip of rage he feels, and that the attack will pass soon. Her husband is at work, checking his phone incessantly to see if his family are safe. Now, there are families in Mayo, as we speak right now, who are in that very situation. And mental health services and disability services are passing the ball from one to the other. and leaving these families in that situation where you have mental health disorders that need to be treated. And it cannot go on. And that's why I am doing this work that I'm doing here, because it's completely unacceptable and it's unsafe.
And this particular case of the 50-year-old, the presumably 16-year-old was going to try and self-harm. Was it on the basis of frustration at autism?
Well, it is. I mean, it's known that people with autism are more prone to developing a mental health disorder. So it's not about the child in itself who is deeply loved, within his family and all of that. It's about the development. The disorder can develop into psychotic episodes around that. Now, I don't want to in any way scare anybody with younger children, because the autism spectrum is very, very wide. So you may have a child with autism who would never experience a psychotic episode or never experience mental health services, but there are a high number who do. And for those, I think it's up to 80% of young people with ASD might suffer anxiety disorders and, mood disorders and disorders that need to be treated by the mental health services. And what's happening is the mental health services are saying, well, no, it's not us. And then the disability services aren't equipped to deal with what they need to, with what they need to deal with around mental health. So that leaves the parents and the families in a dilemma in the middle of all that. So that's why there needs to be proper and better interaction between those services and agencies. Okay. It's not good enough just to be able to say, well, it's not it's not within our spectrum. And that's why it's important for parents and families to have a proper care plan, that somebody signs off within mental health services as well to do this. But there's a lot more to evolve in this, and I'll come back to you again as this is developing, Tommy, around it. But I also want to say, because I'm conscious we're talking about autism, and I'm also conscious that there are many families trying to cope with children and people with disabilities within Mayo. There's some good news in the ratification of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, and my own colleague, Keeping O'Calan, put forward a substantial motion to the Dáil last night, which was accepted in terms of how that ratification is going to pan out and what it's going to mean for families as well. So there is some hope there.
Some hope. Okay, Rose, thank you as always for joining us.